All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HarperCollins Adult presentation for today, whatever today is, June 15th, 2021, the year of our Lord, 2021. So as usual, I will start off and the order I follow is I do the Harper Canada catalog first, Harper UK, Harper US, Harlequin, Mass Market, and then Harper Christian or Harper Christian and Mass Market, and then the add-ons. And you'll notice, well, you won't notice, but there are more add-ons that have popped on since I put the catalog out. So I will send those out to you separately. So to start off with, it's Harper Canada, one of our big novels for the season. On the Harper Canada list is The Listeners by Jordan Tannehill. Jordan Tannehill is from Ottawa, good for Ottawa. Ottawa. He went to Canterbury High School, which is an arts high school here in Ottawa. My sister went there. She's very artsy-fartsy. And he is a Governor General's Award-winning playwright. This is his second novel. His first was critically acclaimed. In this new novel, we follow the life of Clara Devon. She's lying in bed one night, and when she can hear this low hum, she wakes her husband up and asks him if he can hear it. He can't. So the next day, she asks her kids if they can hear it. They can't. She starts asking around. No one but her can hear this low hum, it seems, until she stumbles upon someone else in her neighborhood who can hear it. And soon a number of other people reach out via social media, Facebook, all that sort of stuff, and they become a group, all able to hear this low hum that never goes away. So what follows is a very Kafkaesque at times novel about what this hum means, what it means for these people, what it means for their sanity. So tons of media to come on that, possible nominations for various prizes, et cetera, et cetera. And you will see in Edelweiss that you can download the digital reading copy, or DRC, to use the term. We have this also in paper, as well as hardcover for at the library trade at $23.99 ITPE. Oops. And I just mucked that up. So give me a sec to fix it. It's not what I wanted to click on. That is what I wanted to click on. There we go. Now I go over here. Canadian Courage. This is a soft cover, $24.99. Again, had a little computer glitch there. I wasn't sharing my screen apparently, so now you can look at the screen. Canadian Courage is a collection of stories of everyday Canadian heroes, not just people, firemen who run into burning buildings, or everyday citizens who run into burning buildings perhaps, or take down the bad guys, but people who do extraordinary, or who do or have done extraordinary things. The couple examples in the notes: Sophie Leblanc, who in the aftermath of the crash, escaped an upside down and partially submerged minivan to get help for her family. Tells the story of Thomas Jirosek at McGill University, who lobbied to have the name of the sports team changed from Redmen. So everyday heroes with a good amount of Quebec content as well. Next is the Everyday Hero Manifesto by Robin Sharma. As the top 10 title, 35,000 copy announced first print run. We've sold Robin Sharma's books for decades now. You all know him. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari was his first book, and has gone on to sell over 1 million copies, not just in Canada. But his last book, the 5 a.m. Club, sold 67,000 copies year to date, and continues to sell very well. So this is the hidden habits used by many of the world's most creative and successful people to realize their visionary ambitions. Robin will do cross-country marketing for this book, virtually, of course, unless things open up. And that'll be true for all our authors, of course. Liberté by Caitlin Greenidge, you have in hardcover. The original plan, I was told, is that they meant to have this come out in a trade paper simultaneously with the hardcover, but due to various things, they could not. So now it's coming out at $24.99 trade paper. So the only other thing I need to tell you about this is that Caitlin Greenidge will be part of Indie Book Fest this fall. I'll be sending out more details about that. We have we have 6 authors on Indie Book Fest, and so it looks pretty exciting. Return, While We Go Back to Where We Came From, is the new book by Kamel El-Sulaili, author of Intolerable, a memoir of extremes, and the author of Brown, What Being Brown in the World Means Today. Both of these were critically acclaimed, both were bestsellers, both were nominated for a number of prizes. So Kamel is a Yemeni in exile in Canada. He had to leave Yemen because of his sexual orientation. But of course he longs to go home, and of course he cannot, or feels that he cannot. So for those who are immigrants by choice or perhaps otherwise, this feeling of nostalgia, of homesickness is strong, and he talks about it. And as you can see, you can download the digital reading copy. Mine says download, yours of course says request, because I'm special. With Storm, with Thunder, this is a debut author, Miriam Chansey. Was born in Haiti, came to Quebec, grew up in Quebec, and then Winnipeg, and then ultimately settling in Nova Scotia. This is a novel of the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, told in 10 voices. Paper $24.99, 10,000 copy announced first print run. Miriam will be part of Indie Book Fest. I'm not sure if I mentioned that Kamel is part of Indie Book Fest, but I'll just throw that in. And we hope to have great success with this as well. Polar Opposites by John Geiger. This is his latest book on exploration, specifically Arctic exploration. Geiger is a professor at U of T. He is also the head of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society here in Ottawa. This is a fascinating story of 2 great explorers, Ernst Shackleton, the British explorer, and Willem Ure Stephensen, the Norwegian explorer. The story is set in 1921 and 1922. Both men come to Ottawa to petition the Canadian government. Both men believe that there is a lost continent in the Arctic, and want to have expeditions supported by in part by the Canadian government. The government politely refuses. Shackleton goes ahead anyway, and of course this ends rather tragically. So the story is quite interesting, and he will do lots of media in support of this. 7,000 copy announced first print run. The Forever Dog by Rodney Habib from Dartmouth and Dr. Karen Shaw-Becker from Chicago, Illinois. This is a top 10 title, 22,000 copy print run. Rodney Habib is started off life as a pet food shop owner, gained a huge following for his social media posts, has become somewhat of an expert on animals. Dr. Karen Shaw-Becker is a world-renowned veterinarian. They've been working together for the last few years. They have hundreds of thousands and millions of followers on social media. In their new book, they are looking at how to improve the life of your canine pet. Your canine pet? Yeah, your canine pet. I was going to say something else, but canine friend maybe. So lots of advice on how to get your dog to feel younger, be healthier, and live longer. Hey, what's a little puppy to live longer for sure. In the Midst of Civilized Europe by Canadian author Jeffrey Weidlinger, two-time winner of the Canadian Jewish Book Award. He looks at the pogroms of 1918 to 1921, which occurred in Eastern Europe. 100,000 Jews were murdered in Ukraine and Poland by peasants, town peoples, and soldiers who blamed them for the turmoil of the Russian Revolution. This, he believed, was the inception, if you like, of the Holocaust. Hardcover, $39.99, 4,000 copy first print run, and Kim, he is alumnus of McGill University. This will likely be one of the big books of the fall season, Indian in the Cabinet by Jody Wilson-Raybould. I think it will be the biggest political book. I haven't heard of anything else to match or supersede it. 40,000 copy print run, top 10 title, obviously. Ms. Wilson-Raybould will talk about her time as a Liberal member of Parliament, her time in the Trudeau cabinet as the Minister of Justice, and the SNC Lavalin affair. So she will be everywhere. A Line to Kill is the latest in the Hawthorne Horowitz murder series by Anthony Horowitz. Again, to remind you, this is the one which he puts a version of himself in the novels, in the mysteries. They're a lot of fun, great mysteries. Top 10 title, 16,000 copy print run. Paper, $24.99. Hardcover is also available for any of you who want to do the libraries. Shutout, this is the top pick from HarperCollins Canada. This is the biography, or the memoir, I should say, by Bernie Saunders, not the American Bernie Saunders, who's a politician, but Bernie Saunders, who was born in Montreal, grew up in Châteauguay, was a great hockey player, but was shut out by the NHL because of his color. He did play a game and a half for the Quebec Nordique. That's why you see his sweater on the cover. So this is a look at his life. He's currently living in North Carolina. He made his living as a pharmaceutical sales rep, and had quite a good life, but certainly nothing near what he would have done had he been able to play in the NHL. Next is Murder, Madness, and Mayhem, 25 Tales of True Crime and Dark History. This is by Mike Brown, who is the podcaster who does Dark Poutine, a podcast of exactly the same thing, true crime and dark history. Has 400 to 500,000 listeners per month. And this is a wonderful selection of murder and mayhem and killing and death, all for you. Trade paper, $23.99, 16,000 copies. The Hidden is the new novel by Melanie Golding, follow-up to her acclaimed debut, Little Darlings. This is a spine-tingling suspense novel with a twist on Celtic mythology. A series of seemingly unconnected events. A man found half-drugged and drowned in a bathtub, a pile of women's clothes left on the beach. A little girl is discovered abandoned. Leads Detective Sergeant Joe Harper into into a darker and darker case. I was going to say more and more dark, but I think darker and darker is better. 7,000 copy print run on this one, and trade paper at $23.99. And then we have the new Jamie Oliver cookbook, Together, Memorable Meals Made Easy, 45,000 copy print run, top 10, obviously. We will do as much media with Jamie as we can in Canada. Of course, he's based in the UK. I don't need to tell you much about this. Obviously, going past the lockdown, people will be getting together more often with friends and family. And that's kind of what we're aiming at. One caveat on this, Jamie insists we use a printer in Italy. So that makes the timelines even more difficult. As you know, printing books and distributing books has been a real problem for HarperCollins, especially last fall. The printers are not really getting better, and God knows what will happen with UPS. So I'd like to recommend that you really think forward on bringing in what you're going to bring in for Jamie Oliver's books. And then you see one of his backlist titles, Jamie's Comfort Food, coming now in paper. Brave New Meals, fresh as fuck food for every table by Bad Manners. Bad Manners is the same people who are Thug Kitchen. They changed their brand after some negative feedback on the word thug from the Indian community. There are religious connotations to thug, and they agreed to change their name. No one's objecting to all the swearing, mind you, but interestingly that they went that route. So this is their latest cookbook, all vegan as usual, $34.99. Indians on Vacation, of course, tons of stuff about this. It's coming out in paper in about a month or so. So if you haven't ordered it by now, I see a few of you have, then certainly would encourage you to order it. Rabbit Foot Bill coming in August as well, now in paper. Did well with this in hardback, tons of great acclaim for it. The Northwest is Our Mother. Ended up selling about 10,000 copies of this in hardback. This is the story of the Métis people. And it's now coming in paper, $24.99. Black Water by David Robertson, just picked as the Manitoba Book of the Year. Tons of other critical acclaim for this, sold about 4,000 in hardback. And 1945, The Year That Made Modern Canada by Ken Cuthbertson, looking at that pivotal year in the development of our nation. Finding Murph, how Joe Murphy went from winning a championship to living homeless in a bush. Now coming in paper. To remind you, this is not a hockey book per se, it is a concussion book. Joe Murphy was a #1 overall pick for the NHL back in the 90s. Played for the San Jose Sharks mostly. He made millions and millions of dollars, but he had one concussion too many. Changed his personality. He became obsessive. He gambled away and snorted away all his money. His marriage broke up. He's estranged from his family. He went from team to team until he was finally at the end of his career. Now he's living in a shack in Northern Ontario near Kenora. Often can be found outside the local convenience store muttering to himself. A really sad story and a hard look at concussions. Moonflower Murders, now in a cheaper trade paper, going from $24.99 down to $18.99. That's a Susan Ryland mystery, and it's quite long, 608 pages, because you get 2 novels in it, which I didn't realize until I was partway through. The Family Tree, now we're out of Harper Canada Adult into UK Adult. The Family Tree is a thriller, a debut author, but a woman, Liz Catalano, who does an ancestry check, DNA check finds out that she's actually related to a notorious serial killer. Of course, this sets in motion a terrifying chain of events. So trade paper, $17.99. We're bringing in 4,000 copies for Canada. A Christmas Gift is the latest romantic novel from Sue Moorcroft, perfect for Christmas, bringing in 8,000 copies to Canada, $23.99. It says sagas on there. It's not a saga, it's a romance or women's commercial fiction, but it's definitely not a saga. The Christmas Killer, book 1 in the D.I. James Walker. This book actually came out last November in the UK. We withheld publishing it. We would have got it in January or February, which of course seems silly to have a Christmas book on sale at that time. So we've held the book. It's coming now in Canada for October. This is sort of counter-programming Christmas. D.I. James Walker is relaxing with his family. He's on a Christmas break. Doorbell rings, and there is a lovely Christmas gift on the doorstep. It's lovely until he opens it up and finds something gruesome, which begins the investigation for D.I. Walker. Great acclaim for this in the UK. Sounds like a lot of fun. It's on my to be read pile, and you can request a DRC. The Beginner's Guide to Murder was in the summer catalog. All back orders have been canceled. This is a septuagenarian mystery slash black comedy about 3 women in their 70s sitting having a cuppa in a cafe one day when a 17-year-old woman stumbles in. She's been abused. The women take her under their wing and vow to protect her at whatever cost necessary. Great for fans of Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club. So again, fun and thrilling all at the same time. And we're bringing in 1,000 copies for Canada. Beneath a Starless Sky is a top 10 on the UK list. It is a World War II novel, as you can tell by the sideways profile picture of the woman and the airplanes in the sky. This is the signature look for World War II books, I'm told. This is set in, starts off in Munich in the 1930s. A Jewish woman begins to fear when she sees the rise of the Nazi Party. She's in love with an officer in the German military. He is not Jewish. And she begins to fear for her life as she realizes that he may be willing to sell her out to rise in the Nazi Party. And we're bringing in 9,000 copies for Canada. All for You by Louise Jensen is her latest thriller, bringing in 8,000 copies. In this, we follow the Walsh family, a family filled with secrets that are beginning to leak out and life beginning to spiral out of control. There is a DRC available if you're interested in reading this. And we're doing 8,000 copies for Canada. I think I said that. Midnight in Everwood. This is the new book by M.A. Kuzniar, who is a renowned children's author in the UK. This is her debut adult book. It is the story of a young woman, Marietta, who wants to be a ballerina, but her family wants her to be part of high society. It is Nottingham, 1906. She doesn't have many choices in her life. But her mysterious neighbor tells her that he can help her achieve her dreams, and she vanishes into a wonderland. Will she ever return? So this is based in part on the Nutcracker. Sounds like a great fantasy. We're bringing in 5,000 copies for Canada. The Royal Game, we're doing an ITPE as well as the hardcover. This is the latest from Anne O'Brien, bringing in 1,000 copies for Canada. This is her latest history, again set during the War of the Roses, the British Civil War, the English Civil War. following the story of the Pastons who rose from obscurity to the very heart of court politics. That's her. Daughters of the Resistance is the new Lana Korchik, 10,000 copies for Canada, top 10 title. This is the companion to her previous book, Sisters of War. Again, World War II, but this time from a perspective of two women in the Ukraine, or in Ukraine, I should say. Again, typical World War II cover, two women walking away, airplanes overhead, and destruction. So that looks fun. The Voyage of Freitas, there is a DRC available that you can request. This is top 10 title for Canada, 10,000 copies we're bringing in. Tamara Goranson is Canadian from Victoria, BC. Great for fans of 1,000 Ships and A Song of Achilles. This retells the story of Freitas Eriksdottir, the first and only woman to lead a Viking voyage across the Atlantic. Freitas, the story of Freitas is getting a little bit of a boost. Some of you may be aware of the TV show Vikings, which is showing on Netflix and other streaming services. There is a spin-off coming called Vikings Valhalla, and Freitas the character of Freitas will be a major part of that story. So kind of fun. Red Cross Orphans is the new book by Glynis Peters, World War II fiction again. She is the author of The Secret Orphan, which sold 45,000 copies in Canada. Her subsequent books sold 14 and 15,000 copies, so she definitely has a following here. First of a new series about Red Cross workers trying to save women and children, men, women, and children during the Blitz. There is a Canadian character in this as well. There's actually a Canadian character in all of her books. I guess she likes Canada, eh? Must be nice. And we're bringing in 20,000 for Canada. The Lighthouse Witches is the new horror novel by C.J. Cook, a spooky novel set on a island off the coast of Scotland, Lon Haven. So a mother lives stay and her 3 daughters are there. The mother is divorcing the father, and she needs to get away. So they go to this remote island with a beautiful lighthouse. But of course, things start to go bump in the night. Weird things begin to happen. They begin to see people. The lighthouse lights up unexpectedly. So there you are. So it sounds like good chills. We're bringing in 5,000 copies for Canada. There is a digital reading copy. Just to remind you, she's the author of The Nesting, which came out last year, was one of my indie choice picks. That one was set in Norway. And very exciting, Bernard Cornwell has written another book in the Sharp series. Sharp's Assassin is number 22 in the series. It's been 15 years since the last Sharp book. He's been doing the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles in the meantime. So there is a built-up demand, we believe, for this. I sent out a book manager catalog with all the, and an email with all the Sharp titles, should you want to bring in some or all of them over the next few months in the lead up to the release of this book in September. Great summer reading, great adventure. Top 10 title, 20,000 copies for Canada. The Lord of the Rings, $89.99 is the price. Beautiful edition, hardback, all in one. This is special because for the first time, all the paintings and the sketches done by J.R.R. Tolkien are collected in the book, and put in, of course, where appropriate, not just willy-nilly, which would be funny. So yes, $89.99. There is a super deluxe edition at $200. That is non-returnable. I don't think I included it here. No, I did not. But if you want more details on that, it's a beautiful gift edition in a box with all the bells and whistles. Ready or Not, Alex Lake. This is her latest thriller, 10,000 copies for Canada. A dark thriller about a journalist hunting a serial killer, or is the serial killer hunting her? Her books have done well for us, anywhere between 4,000 and 6,500 copies sold in Canada. Freckles is a new book by Cecilia Hearn. This was listed in the summer catalog, but got moved. All back orders, or most back orders, were canceled. Cecilia is continuing to try to move away from her reputation and her writing style that made her famous. You may recall she wrote P.S. I Love You. So she was a romantic comedy writer. Now she wants to be taken as a very literary, serious writer. Freckles is the latest book in that direction. It is told in a loosely connected stream of consciousness style. The comps are to Duck's Newberry Report, if you're familiar with that book, and I know most of you are. And there you have it. So we're doing it in trade paper and in hardcover. And Jeffrey Archer has come to HarperCollins, come back to HarperCollins, really. He began his writing career 30 or 40 years ago with us, moved on to St. Martin's. I think there were some intervening publishers as well. But now book 4 of the William Warwick series is coming from us, Over My Dead Body, coming in September, October, end of September, early October. 30,000 copy for Canada. It is, of course, a top 10 title, and there is a digital reading copy that you can request. Daughters of War. We're doing this in trade paper and in hardcover, bringing in 12,000 copies for Canada. Dinah Jeffries is a huge author in the UK. Our books normally sell over 100,000 copies there. Not so big here in Canada, North America. So it is our mission to change that. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, not that you have any choice, is to make Dinah Jeffries as big here as she is in the UK, relatively speaking. So this is the first in a trilogy set in World War II in the Dordogne in France, following two women during wartime, and you of course can see the woman and the airplanes off in the sky. So that's the signal. This is a war book. Buy it. The Panda, the Cat, and the Dreadful Teddy. This is a parody of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, which is running up quickly to around 100,000 copies sold in Canada. So tongue firmly planted in cheek in this storybook. Your Personal Horoscope, 2022, perennial bestseller, anywhere between 2,600 and 4,000 copies sold. Find out what's going to happen to you next year. It'll be very exciting. Maybe you can change it, maybe you can't. Jews Don't Count by David Baddiel. David, of course, writes a best-selling series of children's books for us. You will see one on the kids list when next we meet. This is his look at anti-Semitism around the world. This is another book that we've done in the Times Literary Supplement imprint that we started up last year. So short book, hardcover, $15.99, 144 pages, and we're bringing in 1,000 copies for Canada. The Sea is Not Made of Water. Life Between the Tides is the new book by Adam Nicholson. This is International Trade Paper Edition. There is a hardcover as well. It is also part of the Indie Choice Plus promotion. My colleague Sandy from the West Coast read this. She lives on an island off of BC, one of the Channel Islands. I'm going to say Salt Spring Island, but it doesn't sound right. Anyway. Somewhere out there. So this is a beautiful look at the seashore, the sandy beaches or the rocky beaches, and the life that lives there. A book full of wonder for the life around us. Lean Fall Stand. This is an ITPE. We have a hardcover as well. We're bringing in 2,000 for Canada. It's on the top 10. This is the latest book by John McGregor. You may remember his last book, Reservoir 13, which did very well for us. Tons of critical acclaim. It was shortlisted for the Booker and probably half a dozen or a dozen other prizes. This is a story set in the Antarctic, a story of survival in a harsh environment, a story, multifaceted story of love, recovery, and how we care for each other. Many different elements follow into this story, including language dissonance. So quite literary, great for your literary readers. And we're bringing in 2,000 copies for Canada. The Living Planet by David Attenborough, originally published in 1985 in conjunction with the TV series of the same name. This TV series has been revised and updated and will be hitting the airwaves in the fall. I think TV Ontario is doing it. Elsewhere, I'm not sure. So the book has been updated as well. We have it in paper in a hardcover, and we're bringing in 1,000 copies of the paper. A Cook's Book by Nigel Slater. Nigel has a very strong following here in Canada. This is his latest book, and those of you who know Nigel Slater know that it not only is it a cookbook, but it is also a memoir. It's also a book of philosophy. It's a book you can read in bed at night, and not just have it sitting in your kitchen. And we're bringing in 2,000 copies, top 10. Mantell Pieces by Hilary Mantell, now coming in paper. Sold about 1,100 copies of this in hardcover, which is about what we were expecting. Of course, her fiction sells way better. Wolf Hall Trilogy, I think we sold 30,000 copies of each of those 3 books. So for your customers that like Miss Mantell, here it is in paper. The Flight, I just found out that has been delayed a year, so never mind. The New Easy by Donna Hay, now coming in paper. This was originally published by HarperCollins Canada. The rights have reverted back to HarperCollins Australia, and they are doing it in paper at $36.99. Inheritance of Secrets, you can request a digital reading copy. I did and read it and made it my indie choice pick. It is a trade paper original. The author, Sonia Bates, is Canadian living in Australia. It is a swift-moving murder mystery set in Melbourne. We follow our heroine, Juliette, as she reels from the news that her grandparents have been murdered in their home, murdered quite brutally. As the police investigate and she tries to reconnect with her estranged sister and mother, she begins to uncover disturbing secrets about her grandfather. She finds out he was in the Hitler Youth and that he fought on the Eastern Front for the Reich. And that missing signet ring that he long wore may, in fact, be the greatest clue to the murder. Flashing back to wartime Germany, the aftermath in 1950s Australia, Bates keeps the thrills coming and the reader glued to the page. Yeah, it was very good. Nazi treasures also involved. I didn't put that in, but that is the crux of the story, really. And then some nonfiction from Collins, Night Sky Almanac 2022. So a companion to Night Sky, so people can write notes and follow the course of the stars. And then we have a guide to the night sky above North America, again for your amateur astronomer. That's $16.99. The Atlas of Unusual Languages, $24.99. I'm bringing in 1,000 copies for Canada. This is the kind of book that I love. It is, I'm a language nerd. So it looks at pockets of languages around the world that are different than their neighboring languages. So like Basque, for instance, which is completely not related to Spanish or French. It is not an Indo-European language, and other language oddities. So quite interesting. And then we're out of the UK and into Harper, US. So first book is A Farewell to Gabo and Mercedes. This was a late summer drop-in. It's coming in July. Rodrigo Garcia is the son of Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Mercedes Baja. That's my lousy Spanish accent. 12,000 copy print run. I think it'll do much better. I think we underestimated this book. You can get a digital reading copy. This is a look at the final years of Rodrigo's parents. His father was battling dementia, the great writer, in decline, being looked after by his wife and his son. City on Fire is the first of a new series by Don Winslow, an epic crime saga about the Irish and Italian crime syndicates in America during the 1980s and 90s. Of course, Mr. Winslow is famous for his Cartel trilogy. The two books he's done for us, The Border and the Force, both sold around 9 or 10,000 copies. There's a hardcover available of this as well. The Collector's Daughter is the new historical novel by Jill Paul. This looks interesting because it is about the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. Howard Carter, of course, discovered it and reaped the rewards of this fantastic treasure. One of the women in the who was there called it the greatest moment of her life. This is based on the true story of Lady Evelyn, whose father was part of the team who opened King Tut's tomb. Her family, as FYI, just a little factoid, her family owns Highclere Castle, the estate used in Downton Abbey for all the exterior photos of the Crowley family. So we've done well with Jill Paul over the years, and this will likely be her latest bestseller for us. So trade paper original, there is a hardcover available as well. Friends Like These, we're doing an ITPE as well as the hardcover. This is the drug intervention that goes wrong. A group of college friends who never quite recovered from the death of her friend in the last year of school have a 10-year reunion. Of course, at the reunion, all secrets come out. Inseparable. This is a never before published novel by Simone de Beauvoir. We'll have an introduction by Margaret Atwood. It is a long lost novel based on her friendship as a young woman with a girlfriend. We expect this to be a huge literary event. It's already published in French to great acclaim. You can get a digital reading copy as well. 50,000 copy print run, hardcover at $33.50. And then the olive editions for this season are next. Olive editions, to remind you, these are books that we have currently in trade paper or in hardcover, but we put them into these olive editions, which are mass market size. There's a single print run for this, and we keep the books for about a year, and then whatever is left over is pulped. So if these are going to work for you, please order what you're going to need up front. There's a displayer available should you want to go that route. It has all 8 books in the series, 3 copies of each. And the theme this year is BIPOC and LGBTQ. So the first novel included is Beasts of No Nation by Uzodinma Iweala, story of a boy soldier in Africa. Housemaid of Dawn, N. Scott Momaday, a Native American, comes home from the war to find himself caught in between two worlds. That won the Pulitzer Prize. Loteria, Mario Alberto Zambrano, a young Mexican-American girl being held by the state after her mother goes missing and her father's in jail, tells the story using a deck of cards, and this was highly acclaimed. Mysterious Skin, this is LGBT+, from Scott Hine, again, highly acclaimed. Plague of Doves, Louise Erdrich, this was a Pulitzer Prize finalist. The Secrets Between Us, the sequel to The Space Between Us, about an Indian family. Uncle Tom's Children, Richard A. Wright, as we used to call him, to differentiate him from the Canadian author Richard B. Wright. We got the A's and B's mixed up. Anyways, he is the Black author from the 1930s and 40s in America. This is a collection of 5 novellas that broke out Richard Wright. A Woman Is No Man, Itaf Rum's look at a Palestinian American woman in Brooklyn trying to break free from the strictures of her culture and her religion. And that's the end of the Olive editions. Next is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. We all know the movie, the book, the TV show, and the stage play, Wicked. Many things have been based upon Baum's story. This is a beautiful edition of the book put together by the Mina Lima people who've done many books for us: The Pinocchio, Alice in Wonderland, The Secret Garden, The Little Mermaid. So this is an excellent Christmas gift, an excellent any day gift, really. And you might want to bring in some of the backlist to go along with it. The Actual Star by Monica Byrne. This is her latest novel. It is the lead title for Harper Voyager, our science fiction imprint, science fiction fantasy imprint. 100,000 copy print run, aimed at fans of David Mitchell's Cloud Atlas and Octavia Butler's Earthseed series. A multi-generational saga spanning 2,000 years from the collapse of the Mayan Empire to a far future utopia on the brink of a civil war. She is an award-winning author. She publishes with many people, including Tor. Hercule Poirot's Christmas. This is the latest edition of this book, last published about 20 years ago. Great Christmas edition, trade paper at $19.99. The Dressmakers of Auschwitz, Lucy Adlington, 150,000 copy print run for this true story of women who were forced to work as seamstresses for the Nazis in Halle, in the Auschwitz, I should say, so for their lives, unfortunately. Lemon, Love, and Olive Oil by Mina Stone, a beautiful cookbook based on Greek recipes. I presented this to one of my accounts who is of Greek background, and she called it, well, it's more Greekish than actual Greek, with a Greek sensibility to it anyway. But they all look gorgeous and delectable and mouthwatering. Wild Winter Swan by Gregory Maguire. This is now coming in paper. This is the first of 2 books by Mr. Maguire I have on this list. There's a new book in the Wicked series coming up. To remind you, this is now in paper. It is a retelling of Hans Christian Andersen's The Wild Swans story, set in New York City in 1962. Tons of critical acclaim for this in hardback. Burnt Toast and Other Disasters, a book of heroic hacks, fabulous fixes, and secret sauce, is the new cookbook by Cal Peternell. I enjoy his books quite a bit. This is how to turn any food disaster into a culinary masterpiece, including burnt toast, which I know very well. Neil Gaiman Reader, this was $50 or $60 in hardback and now in paper. Great for your Neil Gaiman fans at $24.99. The Stolen Lady is the new book by Laura Morelli. This is a trade paper original. It is a time-step novel following the lives and fates of two women in different time periods as they work to save the Mona Lisa. And then the new book by Anderson Cooper, 300,000 copy print run, is Vanderbilt, The Rise and Fall of an American Dynasty, following the fate of his mother's family. Cooper is a Vanderbilt through his mother, from the rise of the family under Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt and his railroads and other enterprises, through the long years to what has happened to the family today. Of note is that the co-author on this is Catherine Howe. She is an historical novelist. I love her books. Her book, The Physic Book of Deliverance Day, highly recommend that. That was published by Hyperion way back when we used to distribute and sell Hyperion. And I've read a couple of her books since then. She is a fabulous writer. Highly recommend her. But this will, of course, be everywhere. 300,000 copy print run, as I mentioned. The Arrest by Jonathan Lethem, now in paper, post-apocalyptic story. Did well for us in hardback, sold 1,000 copies. I hope to do much better with this in paper. One day, all the electricity in the world stops. And of course, things begin to fall apart. And this is about what happens afterwards through the eyes of one family. Fault Lines, 100,000 copy print run, bittersweet love story in which a Tokyo housewife rediscovers freedom in the electric pulse of the city she always loved when she befriends a restaurateur. So a fair amount of buzz on this at conference. If you're interested, there is a digital reading copy that you can request. Feeding the Soul Because It's My Business is the new book by Tabitha Brown, 200,000 copy print run. She has a massive social media following, numbering in the millions, 4.6 million followers for TikTok, 3.2 million followers for Instagram, and the list goes on. She is vegan. She calls herself America's Mom. Inspirational life lessons in a warm, charismatic voice. Apparently, carrot bacon was something she invented, and that went viral. You want to fry carrots in with your bacon? That's fine by me, but I don't think that's what she meant. The next four books are interesting. They are romantic suspense from Avon. What's interesting about them is that the author, Selena Montgomery, is the pseudonym for American politician and suspense writer Stacey Abrams. She wrote apparently 8 romance or romantic suspense novels when she was younger and foolish, I guess. And we, of course, are taking advantage of her newfound fame to reissue them. Stacey Abrams' name will be on each of the books. I can just click that there. You can see there's Stacey Abrams writing as Selena Montgomery. And I guess Stacey Abrams has a new thriller out right now from Penguin Run House. So here are the 4 books: Hidden Sins, Secrets and Lies, Reckless, and Deception. Next, we have our next book. Our next book in conjunction with the New Yorker magazine, The Matter of Black Lives, a small volume at only 848 pages, 4450, 100,000 copy print run. This is the latest anthology of writings on civil rights, matters of justice, and politics. And you can also read that if you'd like, request a digital reading copy or DRC. Meg Cabot's latest romantic novel for adults is No Words. All her, of course, fans of The Princess Diaries and her teen series are all grown up. They're big people now. And this is aimed at them. And there is DRC available, 75,000 copy print run. Plain Bad Heroines by Emily Danforth. This is a queer horror comedy centered around a New England boarding school for girls. Yeah, lots of great reviews for this. Sarah Waters, of course, gave a blurb. Unfortunately, it was a good one. And then there are others, many others out there. So now in paper. The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This is Indie Choice. This is now in paper. In the 15 years since their teenage son Ray Ray was killed in the police shooting, the Ashota family has been suspended in private grief. Now, as the fractured family prepares for their annual bonfire, an occasion marking both the Cherokee national holiday and Ray Ray's death, each family member attempts to unpack the trauma of Ray Ray's loss, blurring the boundaries between their normal lives and the spirit world. So now in paper, and again, great reviews for this in paper, in hardcover, I should say, 100,000 copy print run. Reprieve by James Han Mutson. This is a hardcover. This is a horror novel set in the late 1990s. A full contact haunted escape room tour goes wrong when a man breaks into the room and kills a contestant. Told in 3 points of view by the diverse characters, all directly or tangentially related to the doomed escape room team, this unique thriller takes a hard look at the ugliness of racial fetishism, homophobia, and cultural complicity. James Han Matson is a well-known writer. This is his latest book, very literary ghost story. And there is a digital reading copy, should you want to request it. The storyteller, Dave Grohl, who is a rock god, started off his fame, started off with Nirvana. He was the drummer for Nirvana. After the death of Kurt Cobain and the breakup of Nirvana, he went on to found the Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age. I've been seeing him everywhere lately, so he's really in the public eye. And 250,000 copy print run on this puppy. The Taking of Jemima Boone. There is a digital reading copy of this available, 150,000 copy print run. This is the first nonfiction book by Matthew Pearl, author of The Dante Club, The Dante Chamber, and other historical thrillers. This is history, but done in a narrative nonfiction style, so it reads like a novel. Telling the story of the kidnapping of Jemima Boone and her two friends. Jemima Boone was the daughter of Daniel Boone. This happened back in 1776, and tells the story of Boone's attempt to find his daughter, and the relationship with the settlers and the Native Americans back in the 1770s. So quite an interesting story. Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet is the new book by Thich Nhat Hanh, the second most popular Buddhist in the world after the Dalai Lama. This is a book about how to change the world we want, how to make the changes we want to see in the world, is I guess the better way of saying that. And his books frequently are bestsellers for us. And there is a DRC available as well. Bourdain, the definitive oral biography. World Travels is selling really well for us when we have stock. I think we're okay for stock right now, but it is a problem, and this may be a problem going into the fall. So again, one that I would say, consider what you need. Order more than just a couple of weeks worth. Look at what you're going to get. You're going to need for the fall. 200,000 copy print run. These are conversations by people who knew Anthony Bourdain. These are edited by his longtime assistant, Laurie Woolliver. Death at Greenway, the new mystery by Laurie Rader Day, award-winning mystery writer. She's won an Anthony, she's won an Edgar, she's won I think all the awards, Mary Higgins Clark Award. This is a World War II story. It is a murder mystery, however, set on Agatha Christie's estate, Greenway. Many displaced Britons were sent out into the country to live during the Blitz, during the war, and this is one of the locations they went to. But of course, a murder occurs. Interestingly, Agatha Christie makes a few appearances, so it gives that a nice little extra zip to it. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a new book by Gregory Maguire, part of the Wicked series, 125,000 copy print run, top 10, obviously. There is a DRC available. First in a three-book series, taking place after the events of the Wicked four-book series, featuring Elphaba's granddaughter. Elphaba, of course, eventually became the Wicked Witch of the West, for those of you not familiar with the books. She, as well as her mother, has green skin. And one day, she's in a shipwreck and washes ashore on the island of Maracour, where, of course, things begin to happen. Otherwise, it would be just a boring story. Yeah, she washed up on the shore. The end. We Run the Tides by Vendella Vita, now coming in paper, 100,000 copy print run. Again, fabulous reviews for this in the hardback. A story of female friendship, betrayal, and mysterious disappearances, set in San Francisco in the 1970s. Are you going to San Francisco? The next book, if I can get the page to change. It's because I was singing. I messed everything up. I should not do that. Nope, of course, I went too far. All right. Battle of Brothers, now in paper, the story of William and Harry. Sold about 3,000 copies of this in hardback in Canada, which probably was pretty close to what they sell in the US. Now, I'm sure it sold much better than that, but certainly a much more popular story here on a per capita basis. The Boys, a book I'm really looking forward to reading, a memoir by Ron Howard and Clint Howard, the brothers, the actors. Ron Howard, of course, is a famous director as well. About growing up in Hollywood. They were an acting family. Their mother and father were both actors, but they kept the family together and kept them all grounded, which you can see even today. And even with Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, or Dallas Bryce Howard. Bryce Dallas Howard, that's her name. She seems like a very down-to-earth person. Digital reading copy is available, 200,000 copy print run. The Hidden Child is not a World War II book, even though we have the woman walking away, but there's no airplanes in the sky, so that is our clue that it's not about World War II. It is about the stock market crash in 1929 and the effect it has on a London family. So sounds interesting. 150,000 copy print run. The Last Checkmate. This is a novel inspired by events in Auschwitz and, of course, inspired by The Queen's Gambit, sort of melding the two, I guess, in a way, hitting two popular themes. It's about a young Polish resistance worker who was kept alive so that she can play chess. So I'm sure that is quite exciting. 150,000 copy print run. The Pioneer Woman Cooks, super easy. Ree Drummond's latest cookbook, 1 million copy print run, one of two books with a 1 million copy print run on the US list. We sell Ree Drummond's books fairly well. We sell, 10 to 15,000 copies of her books in Canada. She's quite popular, but we don't sell our usual 10%. We don't sell 100,000 copies, which would be our usual 10%. But not that we're complaining. US complains, but what do they know? It's Canada, damn it. Season in the Sun, the inside story of Bruce Arians, Tom Brady, and the making of a champion. This is for your football fans, and I know you guys don't like sports books, but they're out there. This would be a great book for Christmas. Last year, for anyone who follows the NFL, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stole Tom Brady away from the New England Patriots. That was a very smart move because at the end of the season in the Super Bowl, it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady who were champions of the league. So this will be for their fans. Last book about Tom Brady, Belichick, sold 1,500 copies. And apparently there's a fitness book from Simon & Schuster by Tom Brady that has been doing quite well. So something to keep in mind. 100,000 copy print run. Welcome to Dunder Mifflin. This has been in a couple of previous catalogs. All back orders were canceled. So this is the ultimate oral history of The Office, the US version, 150,000 copy print run. As the Wicked Watch, Tamaron Hall. This is a debut novel for her. She is a talk show host, American talk show host. This is the first in the Jordan Manning series. Jordan Manning is an investigative reporter. And in her first case, she is investigating the mystery around the deaths of two Black girls, which she thinks is the work of a serial killer terrorizing Chicago. And then from Jenny Colgan, The Christmas Bookshop, 100,000 copy print run, trade paper original. Puts two very popular tropes that she does well together. Christmas, of course, everyone loves Christmas Story, and bookshops. Her best-selling book for us, The Bookshop on the Corner, sold over 12,000 copies. Christmas at the Island Hotel sold around 2,000 copies. So you can see, we're expecting 14,000 copies. It's simple mathematics. The House of Gucci. This is an old book brought back because it has been made into a film starring Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Al Pacino, and Jeremy Irons, and directed by Ridley Scott. It is the true story of the murder of Maurizio Gucci in 1995. And in 1999 or 98, his ex-wife Patrizia, nicknamed the Black Widow, was sentenced to 29 years in prison for arranging his murder. So that should be a good film. The Lives of Brian, AC/DC, Me, and the Making of Back in Black. Brian Johnson was the lead singer of AC/DC. I think they're done now. Maybe not, but if they are performing, actually, he's touring with them again. Anyways, long story short, this is his memoir, 150,000 copy print run. We expect lots of Canadian media, Q on the CBC, the Globe and Mail, etc. Johnson will do lots of photos to Canada, apparently. The Unheard is the new novel by the husband and wife team writing under the name Nikki French. This is a new standalone. A single mother suspects her young daughter has witnessed a horrible crime when she draws a disturbing picture. But the deadly path to unravel the truth could cost her everything. So trade paper original on that as well. And there is a hardcover for the libraries. Sorry, just a little sip of water. Actually, it's whiskey, but that, you don't need to know that. The Wild Unknown, Pocket Tarot, the full deck. We've sold 34,000 copies of. Last I checked, probably closer to 35,000 now. So very popular. $21.99 is the price. And it is thinking about changing its page. Here we are. All Her Little Secrets. This is the lead read and on the adult list for the US. It is Indie Choice Plus as well. It is a trade paper original, 150,000 copy print run. And this brilliant, fast-paced thriller debut, the author crafts a twisty mystery about a Black lawyer who finds herself in over her head when her boss mysteriously dies, and she is now thrust into the shady executive circle. So lots of bells and whistles coming with this book, lots of publicity in the US, and we will work on Canadian publicity as well. Untitled by Hale Inimer. Still no title, but the author the name is an anagram for Leah Remini. You may know Leah Remini as an actress. She was on The King of Queens and many other TV shows. She belonged to Scientology, the Church of Scientology, until she broke away about 10 years ago. And she has been writing about them and doing TV shows about them ever since. This is more of her feelings about Scientology, interviews with people who've left the church, and which she says, of course, brainwashes people. But not Tom Cruise. Who can you not love? How can you not love Tom Cruise? The Fragile Earth, now in paper. This is our first book in conjunction with New Yorker, now at $23.99. The Month of Borrowed Dreams, we have this paper as well as hardcover. Book 5 in the Finfarren Peninsula series. Finfarren Peninsula is on the west coast of Ireland. The first book was about an American librarian who goes to Ireland to escape a broken heart and falls in love, of course, with all the lovely Irish people. And this is book 5 in the series. And as usual, there is a Canadian character in these books. The author is a big fan of Canada. Big fan. Untitled by QT. Untitled is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. QT is Quentin Tarantino. As many of you may remember, I sold you a mass market original by Quentin Tarantino on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's coming out this month at $9.99 or $10.99, something like that. This is a $37 hardcover deluxe edition of that novel. Comes with a whole bunch of extras as well. Great for any Tarantino fans you might have. Stranger in the Lifeboat is the new book by Mitch Albom. This is the other 1 million copy print run book. Very much akin to The Next Person You Meet in Heaven, which sold 60,000 copies in Canada. A group of shipwrecked passengers pull a strange man from the sea. He claims to be the Lord, and he says he can only save them if they all believe in him. So his fans will eat this stuff up. So certainly encourage you to order up. Woke up this morning and you were on my mind. I woke up this morning, you were on my mind. The definitive oral history of The Sopranos. $35.99, 100,000 copy print run. Great for your fans of The Sopranos. I'm a tenor myself. The Writer's Library, now in paper. 23 of today's living literary legends reveal the books that made them think, brought them joy, and changed their lives. So we did well with the hardback, now coming in paper. Blood, a memoir by the Jonas Brothers, 250,000 copy print run. The top, or certainly near the top, musical group currently. They've been in the music business for a long time, started off on Disney, and now are back together after a break and tearing up the charts. So this is their story. I Hope This Finds You Well is a new collection of poetry by Kate Bear, 150,000 copy print run, which is pretty big for a book of poetry. But she has a pretty big following. Her last book of poetry, What Kind of Woman, sold 3,400 copies in Canada, which is almost unheard of. These are erasure poems, so tweets and texts sent to her by her supporters and detractors. She has gone through and altered, erased words and created poems out of their writings. So kind of interesting way of doing things. Unique, one might say. Next, I have to plug in my laptop. Sorry about that. I'll take a small break. Reach down and get the plug. There we are. Next is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. We have this in hardcover and ITPE. There's a signed carton available, a hardcover if you're interested. 150,000 copy print run. This is set in a small independent bookstore in contemporary Minneapolis. A lot like Louise Erdrich's independent bookstore in contemporary Minneapolis. Follows a turbulent year in the life of a strong-willed Ojibwe woman named Toki. So, of course, the pandemic plays a key role in the story. And Louise Erdrich appears as a character herself, as the owner of the bookstore. So, true life intrudes on fiction. I think they call that metafiction. Of course, I never met a fiction I didn't like. Unrestricted Access, new and classic short fiction by James Rollins. These are all Sigma Force stories. I read this, quite good. If you have any Sigma Force fans, they will enjoy it. We're doing it as a trade paper. The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, the last book in the Poppy War trilogy, now in paper. Again, great sales and great acclaim for this series. Termination Shock, the latest slim novel by Neil Stevenson, only 900 pages long, practically a pamphlet really for him, $39.99, visionary techno-thriller about climate change and man-made forces that shape our present and future. And he has huge following, 250,000 copy print run. Too Much Lip, now in paper. This is the award-winning novel by Aboriginal writer Melissa Lukashenko, winner of the Miles Franklin Literary Award, the Queensland Premier Award, the Prime Minister's, was shortlisted for the Prime Minister's Literary Award in Australia, the Stella Prize, and a whole bunch more. This is about an Aboriginal woman who goes back to her hometown to rediscover her roots. Of course, many corollaries can be made for similar books in Canada. 12 and a Half. This is the new book by Gary Vaynerchuk, one of our top business writers. 250,000 copy print run, hardcover, $36.99. In his new book, he reveals the 12 essential emotional skills that are integral to his life and business success, and provides today's and tomorrow's leaders with critical tools to acquire and develop these traits. He is a best-selling author here in Canada. His last book, Crushing It, sold over 17,000 copies. well worth investing in this one. And When a Killer Calls is the third book we're publishing in the last year and a half. They're coming fairly quickly, by John E. Douglas, former FBI profiler, the model whose life was used to model Mindhunter on Netflix, if you're familiar with that show. This is the story of his quest to track down Larry Gene Bell, one of the scariest serial killers he ever encountered. Then You Feel It Just Before the Ribs. Jeffrey Cranor, along with Joseph Fink, write the popular podcast Welcome to Night Vale. Here he's working with his wife, Janina Mathewson, on a post-apocalyptic or an alternate 20th century where that chronicles one woman's unusual life, including the price she pays to survive and the cost her choices hold for the society she's trying to save. Interesting look at the way this society is put together, and it will, of course, because it's from Jeffrey Cranor, have some very odd humor in it as well. And there is a DRC, should you be interested. Leave the World Behind. Leave the World Behind. Suddenly I became Southern. Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. Now in paper, sold 4,500, 4,600 copies in Canada of the hardcover. It was Jenna's book club pick, as I recall. Yeah, read with Jenna. 200,000 copy print run for the paper. Almost a post-apocalyptic novel in many ways. A family rent a house in Long Island for a long weekend, but something happens in New York City, all the power is lost, and an older couple, come knocking, say that they are owners of the house and that they want back in because of the blackout in New York City. And looks at, of course, what happens in their relationship. Next is Ann Patchett's new book, These Precious Days. This is a book of essays. We have it in hardcover and in paper. Ann will be in Indie Book Fest. She will be our closing author for the Indie Book Fest season. These are essays on home, family, friendship, and more. And she should be the star of the festival. Autopsy by Patricia Cornwell. This is the latest book in their Case Carpetta series. We have it in hardcover as well. So her fans are legion. Her last book sold 25,000 copies for us in trade paper. Postmistress of Paris is the new book by Meg Wade Clayton. 75,000 copy print run. Ms. Clayton is the author of The Last Train to London, which sold 35,000 copies. Again, this is a World War II story about a woman who helps artists escape the Nazis. Sex Cult Nun. I'm a little upset. This was the name I was going to choose for my memoir. So, I hate to see that happen. But in all seriousness, this is the story of the Children of God cult. Faith Jones is a lawyer. She is the granddaughter of the founder of the cult. And her family broke free from it as well. The cult included amongst its members the family of actress Rose McGowan and that of River and Joaquin Phoenix. So this is the whole sad story. The Cat Who Saved Books by Susuke Natsukawa, a bestseller in Japan, translated into English. About a high school student named Rentaro Natsuki, who inherits a secondhand bookshop from his grandfather, and is about to close the store and make some money off the sale when a talking cat named Tiger demands that he help him save unloved or forgotten books. So a little magical realism. This was incredibly popular in Japan, as I mentioned. We're working on doing an international trade paper edition of this, but I would recommend that you order the hardcover. The ITP will be coming eventually, and I will just switch your orders over from the hardcover to the trade paper. Good Dogs Don't Make It to the South Pole, now in paper. This got a little mixed up in rights when it came out in hardcover last year. We thought we had rights, then we didn't think we had rights, and then ended up that we did have rights. So a lot of orders slipped through the cracks. Nonetheless, we sold about 500 copies of the hardback. This is geriatric fiction, great for fans of The 100-Year-Old Man, all that kind of writing. But a woman whose husband dies, and then she and her dog find solace by researching Roald Amundsen's expedition to the South Pole, and they decide to try and recreate it. So a lot of fun, lots of humor, and pathos. The Comfortable Kitchen is the new cookbook by Alex Snodgrass. 105 laidbacks, healthy and wholesome recipes, 200,000 copy print run, full color throughout, hardcover at $36.99. Her last cookbook with the Defined Dish sold 1,400 copies, as best we can tell. That was published by HMH, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, which, as you know, we have bought. The trade side, that is, and we'll start distributing and selling in January 2022. So I'm about to go to sales conference for the winter list, but unless things change, I will not have the information about the winter titles. That will happen with the next sales conference. But as it stands right now, we will take over distribution of HMH titles January 1st, 2022, but that is to be confirmed. And the changing the name of the imprint as well. It'll become an imprint, possibly with its own name or possibly spread out amongst various HarperCollins entities. They're still working on all the details. The Replacement Wife is the new thriller by Darby Kane, 100,000 copy print run. There is a hardcover available as well. Ellie Wright is a mom and a wife living a nice, quiet life in a nice, quiet town. She's also convinced her brother-in-law is a murderer. Small glitch. So her last book, Pretty Little Wife, sold 46,000 copies in Canada, so she has a definite fan base here. And then we're out of Harper US into Harlequin. First book is Never Saw Me Coming, which is a top pick at Harlequin. It's an indie choice pick. There is also a hardcover available. So this is a story of set in a university and thriller in which a group of students diagnosed with psychopathy are brought to the school to participate in a clinical study, and one by one they begin being hunted down. But is the killer one of their own? The book was so much fun, says Brennan. I found myself rooting for our psychopaths while simultaneously mistrusting them all a great deal. It reminded me of The One by John Mars mixed with The Scream Queens or Happy Death Day, neither of which I know. I know The One. So great, sounds like a lot of fun. But who doesn't have fun with psychopaths? Fun with psychopaths, that's the next great reality TV show. The Great Glorious Goddamn of It All, Josh Ritter, I should say. No relation to John Ritter, I asked. This is a novel, tells the story of Weldon Applegate, who's now 99 years old and in hospital, as he recounts his coming of age in Prohibition-era Idaho among the last generation of great American lumberjacks. For fans of the Sisters Brothers, this is a colorful, hilarious, at times terrifying tale that argues a worthy, more and even harder to defeat. Josh Ritter's writing style hooked me from the first paragraph. an experienced songwriter. Pace called him one of the 100 greatest living. That's quite a nice title from a magazine I don't know. He has built a singular world filled with larger-than-life characters. The Jacks have their own vivid vocabulary and folklore, and Weldon's creative stories, creative cursing would fit right in with Deadwood. Wild and perilous ride, an exploration of masculinity bristling against changing times, and a loving tribute to the tradition of American writing, Americans writing their own folk stories. So this is an Indie Choice Plus as well, obviously. Sounds great, and there is the DRC available, should you be interested. The Christmas Wedding Guest is the new Susan Mallory, 150,000 copy print run. We sell Susan Mallory quite well. I'd certainly like to recommend a few romance novelists every once in a while, just to keep you on your toes. The Matzo Ball, this is a top 10 title, a story of a Jewish woman, Rachel, who has a secret love for Christmas. She hides her Christmas romance novelist career from her family, and though she suffers from chronic illness, the warmth of Christmas keeps her happy. Tasked by her publisher to write a Hanukkah romance, Rachel seeks out the Matzo Ball, a Jewish music celebration on the last night of Hanukkah, even though she's stuck working with her summer camp arch enemy, Jacob. So lots of fun. You can request a DRC on this as well if you're interested. Last Girl Ghosted is the new thriller by Lisa Unger. Her last book with us, Confessions on the 745, sold over 19,000 copies. We're doing a hardcover as well as an ITPE. A woman falls hard for a man she's met online, but has stood up when they plan to meet. Stranger yet, all of his social media profiles had vanished and his phone number disconnected. She at first blames herself for sharing too much, too fast, but as she starts to look for answers, she finds herself on a dangerous hunt, discovering countless other girls who thought they were in love before they too went missing. Bum, bum, bum. And just started reading this, April in Paris. It's fantastic so far, about 20% in. So the latest from John Banville, the literary writer, nominated for Booker Prize, Dublin Impact Awards, et cetera, et cetera. So last year, he wrote the book Snow for us, set in 1950s Ireland, introduced the character of D.I. St. John Strafford, and in his investigation of an untimely death and the interference of the Catholic Church. Before that, John Banville also wrote mysteries, but he wrote them under the pseudonym Benjamin Black, and they revolved around a pathologist from Dublin named Quirk. So in his new book, April in Spain, he has meshed the two detectives, the two investigators, I should say, into a murder mystery set in Spain. Quirk is relaxing on the coast of San Sebastian when a murder occurs. He is asked to help investigate, and he calls back to Ireland, and D.I. St. John Strafford is sent out to help the pathologist. So a nice melding of the two stories. And as I said, so far, so good. There is a digital reading copy available, and I highly recommend you read it. And then the next book is just Snow, coming in paper. Again, love that. I made it an indie choice pick when it came out. Another book I really enjoyed from Harlequin the last season was Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Interesting little book, and it wasn't very long and very big, about stories of people who go to a small cafe in Tokyo and can have a wish granted, a wish to go back in time. There are only two rules. They can't leave the cafe when they're back in time, and they only have them as much time as it takes before a cup of coffee gets cold to spend back in time. So a sequel came out, which we're publishing in English, Tales from the Cafe, which continues the stories. and there is a DRC available. D, A Tale of Two Worlds by Michel Faber, 100,000 copy print run. Read this last year as well. A really good story. This is not an adult story. This should be in the kids' catalog. In our modern world, a young girl, DeKillo, I should say, notices that the letter D has started disappearing. So Dixon Street is now Ixon Street. The Daily Mail newspaper is now the Ailey Mail. And people, even in speaking, are starting to drop the letter D. She goes in search of an old teacher of hers who transports her to a fantasy world where a wizard is stealing all the letter Ds from our world for his own nefarious purposes. So it was quite an inventive story, very good world creation, and you see lots of great reviews for this, so highly recommend it. Wildcat, the untold story of the Canadian woman who became the West's most notorious bandit. We have this in ITPE as well as hardcover. This is the true story of Pearl Hart, the most famous female bandit in the American West, who robbed passengers of the Arizonian stagecoach at gunpoint while disguised as a man in May 1899. Hailed as the Bandit Queen, becoming a media sensation and known as the most notorious female outlaw in the Western frontier. This is a never before seen look at the trailblazing women who made their mark in the American West. So Pearl Hart was born and raised in Lindsay, Ontario. Got married as a young woman, and her husband took her and the family down to Arizona, where he lost all his money and left his family. Faced with destitution, Pearl turned to robbery as a way to survive. And the rest, as they say, is history. The new Nicola Cornick, The Last Daughter of York. This is a top 10 title. It is a time slip novel as well. 1485, Richard III, now dead, has entrusted the young Duke, Richard of York, his brother's surviving son and legitimate heir to the throne, to his confidant Francis Lovell and his wife Anne, or to keep him safe from Henry Tudor's rebels and agents. Present day, we meet Serena, who's been running from her past, but when her disappeared twin sister Caitlin's bones are discovered in a vault not opened since the 18th century, Serena begins to uncover a secret family history and the evidence that connects her to royalty centuries prior. The novel was inspired by the story of the Princess and the Tower scandal, and it sounds quite fascinating. The Winter Guest by Pam Jenoff. This is her latest reissue. We've done this for 2 books previously, and they both worked out fabulously. These are novels that Harlequin published before HarperCollins took them over. So it's obviously World War II, and we got a fabulous new package on this novel. Yeah, the previous 2, The Ambassador's Wife and the other one, sold around 30,000 copies when we repackaged them. So knock on wood for the same success. Nanny Dearest, Flora Collins, 100,000 copy print run. 25-year-old woman is reeling from the death of her father and reconnects with her former nanny, Annalise. But of course, the nanny is not what she remembers. She is evil, I tell you, evil. And bad things begin to happen. The Women of Pearl Island by Polly Crosby. This is her latest novel after the Book of Hidden Wonders, which sold around 2,000 copies. This is set on a secluded island off the British coast that once was a testing site for nuclear bombs. It has now grown back. There are butterflies and plant life everywhere. A woman is living there, collecting the butterflies, and enlisting the help of a young woman. And at night they sit around the fire, and the elderly woman recounts the story of her life. My Darling Husband is the new thriller by Kimberly Bell, 100,000 copy print run. We're doing an ITP as well as the hardcover. Her last book, Dear Wife, sold about 16,000 copies. A story of a husband and wife and family, seemingly happily married, seemingly successful, but there's problems. The husband owes some very unsavory people a lot of money. His business is failing, and terror is just around the corner. And then we're out of Harlequin into Harper Christian. So I've gone lightly through this. Harper Christian, I should add, is now a composite of two different publishers. So Harper Christian Publishing, which comprises Thomas Nelson and Zondervan, and Harper Focus Publishing, which comprises Harper Horizon, Harper Muse, and Harper Leadership. Harper Focus is non-Christian in outlook. Obviously, Harper Christian Publishing is. So we'll see more of the Harper Focus on this list than Harper Christian, but there are a few things to bring to your attention. The first off is the new book by Max Lucado. We're made for this moment. 300,000 copy print run. Racial divides, political strife, uncertain futures, changing times. Is this the story of Esther or the story of today? Lucado's reputation is immense. He sells well in a lot of secular accounts. So good for your religious sections. And then the new book by Kathy Lee Gifford, The Jesus I Know, 140,000 copy print run. So this is conversations about Jesus Christ she has with a rabbinic Jew. There's a strong movement in Christianity, sort of a move back for some towards Judaism, and Kathy Lee Gifford is a proponent of that. So interesting conversations, and of course, star power behind it. Declutter Like a Mother. So a social media star, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of fans for her on social media. Ali Casaza tells you how to declutter your house, and that's not just throwing out your books. It's not a Marie Kondo kind of thing, but more comprehensive or less book-centric maybe. Maybe Marie Kondo was not as book-centric, but certainly that's what we picked up on, wasn't it? Healthy Kids, Happy Moms. This is from Harper Horizon, part of the Harper Focus imprints, one of the Harper Focus imprints. So 7 steps to heal and prevent common childhood illnesses. This may be a bad winter for colds and flus. Many people, of course, did not get flu shots last fall and winter for all the obvious reasons. So many experts are predicting a worse flu season this coming year. Take control of your cancer risk. People at WebMD writing about cancer, everything you need to know, but we're afraid to ask. That's Harper Horizon imprint. Also in Harper Horizon is a memoir by Zachary Levy, Go Love Yourself. Presented a couple of times previously. Most back orders have been canceled. Zachary Levy, or Levi, is the star of the movie Shazam. He's a Broadway actor. He was the principal star of the TV show Chuck, which my wife and I love. It was made back around 2010 or so. Yeah, great actor. 95,000 copy print run on this, top 10 title. I'm looking forward to reading it. Built Through Courage, Dave Hollis is the ex-husband of Rachel Hollis. This is his first book since their divorce. This is a HarperCollins leadership title. It'll help you dive deeper into the stories, values, and beliefs you attach to yourself and decide once and for all if they have credibility or if it's time to cut bait. Incorporate fundamental habits and routines specific to you and your circumstances that will flood your daily life with consistencies, flexibility, simplicity, and integrity, and much, much more. So his last book did very well for us. If I can just get the number somewhere down at the bottom. Nope, don't have the number. But we sold over 10,000 copies, as I recall. Yep. Oh, get out of your own way. 5,300 copies sold. I was wrong. I was only up by 5,000. So there we go. That's his new book. Once Upon a Wardrobe, but this is from Harper Muse. This is the new book by Patty Callahan. She wrote Becoming Mrs. Lewis, which we ended up selling about 7,500 copies of. This continues retelling parts of the life of C.S. Lewis. This focuses on his earlier years. You can see here we have a blurb from Douglas Gresham, C.S. Lewis's stepson. So definitely support from the C.S. Lewis estate. The Cartographer's Secret is the new novel by Tia Cooper, 14,000 copies for Canada. Top 10 for fans of, new book is for fans of Kate Morton and Natasha Lester. It follows a young woman's quest to heal a family rift as she becomes entangled in one of Australia's greatest historical puzzles. So set in 1880 and 1911. So it sounds like a lot of fun, and it's on our top 10 list. And then some add-ons. The Black Phone by Joe Hill. There's a movie coming out called The Black Phone. It's based on a short story by Joe Hill that was in the book 20th Century Ghosts. So we have retitled 20th Century Ghosts and rejacketed it to match the movie. So that's in trade paper at $21. Pray, Immigration, Islam, and the Erosion of Women's Rights is the new book by Ayan Hirsi Ali, $35.99. This book has been out since January in the US and has done well there. We will have it here at the end of this month, so please order up quickly. Her last book, Heretic, no, that's not her last book. That's the last book I could get sales on. Heretic sold 7,000 copies for Penguin Run House when it came out. What really happened in Wuhan? First of, I'm sure, a few books looking at the origin of the pandemic. 75,000 copy print run. The Chinese are, of course, being very unhelpful when it comes to finding out information about the coronavirus. And I've only found out recently that there is a lab that tests new viruses based in Wuhan. So the conspiracy theories, and I'm certainly lending a little bit of credence to it, is that it was a virus that was invented and somehow managed to escape this lab in China. Now, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that they're not all out to get you. So, but certainly interesting things have happened there, and hopefully one day we'll get to the bottom of it. Moonshot has been delayed. That just happened, so never mind. The Wit and Wisdom of Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. We all know the success of that series on TV, and then the books that followed afterwards. So we are reissuing this book. Came out 10 years ago or so, and hopefully will continue to be popular. The X-Hex by Aaron Sterling. This is a top 10 title, 40,000 copy, spine-tingling romance full of wishes, witches, and hexes gone wrong. A young woman who hexes her boyfriend after a bad breakup, and then they meet again 9 years later, and you find out that the hex is still active. Reminds me in spirit, anyway, of the movie Bell, Book, and Canto, Bell, Book, and Candle, that some of you may remember, starred James Stewart and Jack Lemmon and the gorgeous Kim Novak. Little Sister, we're doing an ITP of this. There is a hardcover available as well. Lana Wood is the sister of the late Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood died under suspicious circumstances. She drowned falling off a boat. Officially, she drowned after falling off a boat drunk. Boat her husband, Robert Wagner, and his friend Christopher Walken were on. Lana has written this book in response to a documentary by Robert Wagner's daughter, basically trying to clear her father's name completely. But she has her own things that she wants to say about the death of her sister. The Sweet Spot by Canadian author Paul Bloom. We're doing an ITP of this. There is a hardcover available. The author is from Montreal. He's been on various Canadian media, The Current. Kim, he and his wife went to McGill, although they now live in the US. This is a different kind of happiness book, one that shows us how suffering is an essential source of both pleasure and meaning in our lives. And certainly masochists would agree. Baggage is the new memoir from Alan Cumming. This is the follow-up to his book, Not My Father's Son, 150,000 copy print run. And there will be much media about this, of course. Gabrielle Union's latest book, You Got Anything Stronger, is the follow-up to her book, We're Going to Need More Wine, more stories about life as a Black woman in toxic Hollywood. And her husband, Dwayne Wade, has a book, as you know, coming out. And then The Alchemist's Secret. This is book one in the Scott Mariani series, in the Ben Hope series by Scott Mariani, I should say. We had sold the rights to Simon & Schuster and didn't do very well for them. We have rights back. We went on to have great success. He's a multi-million copy bestseller for us. And then some mass markets that I put in here. American Trader, The Lost Boys, The Ashes of London, book one in the Marwood and Lovett series. Missing and Endangered, the new J.A. Jance. Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. The Silent Wife by Karen Slaughter. Find You First by Linwood Barkley, coming out early in mass market. Doing quite well in trade paper. Lola on Fire by Canadian author Rick Ewers. This is a great thriller. Stargazer, the latest from Anne Hillerman and the Chi Manuelito series. The latest from Heather Goodenkoff, Not a Sound. Paperback, mass market paperback original, book 3 in the Net Force series, based on ideas by Tom Clancy. The Wives by Taryn Fisher, now coming in mass market. We sold 82,000 copies of the ITPE. The Sorority Murder, this is a paperback original. There is a hardcover in the US catalog as well. This is the first in a new mass market original series that will focus on suspenseful, ripped from the headline stories told in a compelling, non-procedural way. And last but not least is the mass market version of The Black Phone. We just saw the trade paper, so there is a mass market available as well. And that, my friends, is everything. Well, it's not everything, but everything I want to talk about. I don't know if anyone's listening.